The stock market blew up today as the New York Stock Exchange halted Berkshire Hathaway's shares as they dropped 99.97%. Talk about rat poison squared. Meanwhile, the roaring kitty is laughing all the way to the bank as GameStop is up over 80% as he announced a $180 million position. What does this say about the current state of our financial system, propped up by greed and lies? Plus, a prominent Silicon Valley venture capitalist makes the case for 500K Bitcoin by 2025, as Bitcoin challenges gold as the hardest asset with transactional utility value. Also, we unpack an epic rant from comedian Dave Smith, who talks about the late stages of a crumbling empire. Everything falls back to money. We inject his rant with a little bit of orange hope and optimism. Welcome to Bitcoin Daily. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. What's up, everybody? I'm back from vacation. Thank you guys for tuning in with Hurley last week. We're in a little bit of a different space as we make some upgrades to HQ, but the content's going to be the same and as good as ever. When you're not paying attention, it's easy to be fooled, like Dean Mijos from Coastal Carolina.
We just had a hidden ball trick, and Mijos just got tagged out at third base. Are you kidding me? Did that really just happen?
Never seen it live.
The old hidden ball trick. I applaud Blake Wright from Clemson because fooling Dean took some sleight of hand. It took some practice. It took some trickery. It took some skill. But our corrupt institutions aren't even trying to hide the facts anymore. They say the truth shall come to the light and the truth shall set you free. Well, it doesn't have to set you free if you're a guy like CZ who can launder billions of dollars of customers' money, commit fraud openly, break almost every financial law imaginable, and be free to live on a horse farm and live life as you please after just 4 months of prison. Or unless you're the NIH, who supposedly earned almost $710 million in royalties from the companies that had vaccines promoted during 21 through 2023. Or unless you're Dr. Fauci, the highest and most prominent medical position in the United States, where you can actually make up things about masking children and a 6 feet mandate that wasn't actually based on anything real. But here's a few things that you can't really fake. Eventually, the truth does come to the light, like how the economy is really doing. Like when the Atlanta Fed changes their forecast of GDP from being 4.1% just a few months ago to 2.7% just at the end of last month to now 1.8% today. What happened in the last few months that made the projections for the GDP of the economy to fall by 50%? Or you can't really fake the manufacturing data. After all, that is the most proof of work of all the industries that we do actually have in America right now, where the ISM manufacturing data came out and the numbers fell to 48.7 versus the estimate of 49.6, and production fell to 50.2. Doesn't matter if you know what these numbers actually mean, but if you do know, you know. And you know that these are the lowest numbers that we've seen in a long time, and they continue to fall. You know what other thing you also can't fake? Like the fact that Larry Allen could bench press 225 pounds 43 times while chilling out at the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. Or the fact that he bench pressed 700 pounds as a max in the offseason. Or the fact that he ran down a linebacker on an intercepted slant as a guard. Larry put in the proof of work. And as tough as you thought that you were in your mind, you really found out what was real about how tough you were when you met a guy like Larry Allen in the trenches. Because Larry put in the proof of work. In the digital world and in the digital economy, it's easy to fake things, but eventually the truth will win out. And right now, the world is finding out what is really real and what really isn't. Like Berkshire Hathaway's stock, or shall I call it rat poison squared, which fell 99.97% today as there was a glitch in the New York Stock Exchange trading systems. Things that people thought were safe may not be as safe as you thought that they were. Or things that you thought were true, like your super smart buddy from high school who went to an Ivy League school, graduated from the top of his class, worked at Goldman Sachs, left to start his own hedge fund, became the best golfer that you know by managing your money and making 2% off of that. And he told you all those years that he could make more money for you by beating the stock market. Yet somehow your buddy is getting laughed at by the roaring kitty who showed that he had a $180 million position and liquidated shorts like your buddy from high school to the tune of $1 billion today, as GameStop stock traded up over 80% in the pre-market. Back to the Berkshire Hathaway thing for a second. Let's just play a little thought experiment. Let's imagine that you woke up one day and the value of everything that you had invested in, your time, your energy, your money, things that you were banking on to live a safe and sound retirement, actually was devalued by 99.97% overnight. Well, if you're not an American, that's the case for many people in the currencies all around the world that are not the US dollar, which is why Silicon Valley execs like Chamath are saying that Bitcoin is going to be a dual currency for many countries around the world. They may have their own local fiat currency, but they're also going to have Bitcoin. Because like people from Berkshire Hathaway's debacle this morning, people are finding out that the things that they thought were valuable aren't actually as valuable as they thought that they were.
When I talked to Wences about this, how he explained it, which makes a lot of sense to me, is there are a lot of countries that will never look at Bitcoin credibly, even if they support it. The US may be one of those, but there's an increasing body of countries that will become dual currency. And they will look at their local currency, and then they will look at Bitcoin. And they will say both of these two things are needed. One, when you're transacting on a daily basis for random goods and services. And two, when you need to buy a permanent asset that needs to have residual value, you'll use something like BTC. And I think that's a very powerful concept. And if you look at what this price chart could indicate, is that if this thing starts to get to these levels of appreciation, it is going to completely replace gold and start to become something that has transactional utility for hard assets. And I think if you marry that with this worry that some folks have about dollar debasement, you start to see some really interesting opportunities. So I just thought that this was a interesting thing that he here's our disclaimer, interesting thing that he put me on. I thought I'd share that with you. I'll publish this on Twitter, but.
And you know what this is the result of? The ultimate meme coin, the US dollar, which has a supply of 34 trillion with an unlimited cap where 25% of it has been printed in the last 6 months, where there is a single node, the United States government, which isn't backed by religious fervor, even though it's based on faith in the United States government. And, oh, by the way, 1% of the holders own over 30% of the currency supply. The wealthy, the haves, versus the have-nots. These are characteristics of late-stage systems. And it's funny. You can laugh about this all you want, but the people who actually have a great pulse on what's true in the economy that just happen to make jokes about it are comedians, which is why I really respected this epic rant from Dave Smith, who's clearly a Bitcoiner and who clearly understands what's going on in the United States and our economy right now.
We're in a collapsing empire right now, and that's our job is to try to right this ship. But we're in a late stage empire, and that's what America is. And this rarely comes up in corporate media, but the USA is the most powerful empire in the history of the world, and we are the global empire right now. But we're in the very late stages of that with all of the characteristics of a late stage empire. And what are those characteristics? Being way too expanded militarily, being very, very far in debt, and then what ultimately happens after that? The culture devolves into decadence. And that's why things are dumber than they've ever been before. And that's why, you have people, whether it's like a gay pride parade where two guys are like slapping their butt cheeks together and then they're going, we're standing up for our rights. Like, no, you're not. You're not fighting for rights. This is decadence. When you see, if you look back at, say, like William F. Buckley's firing line, when it would be William F. Buckley going at it with Gore Vidal, Okay, well, just the level of intelligence there between that and like Sean Hannity going at it with Don Lemon, no offense. There's been a significant fall off. And I think that's what's going on all throughout the country. And what's happening is that the most powerful people are trying to pit us against each other so that we're constantly fighting in a culture war so that we never all get together and realize that, you know what the left wing and the right wing of the culture war have in common? Both of their dollars been destroyed by the Federal Reserve. Okay? But that never gets covered on CNN. You know what I mean? Like I never see like a big segment about that. Hey, how come all those years having the #1 CNN show, not one segment about the secrecy of the Federal Reserve, the secrecy of the CIA? Instead, all we get from the corporate media is, I don't know, the unvaccinated, the Trump supporter, the Biden supporter, pitting Americans against each other and all the while blaming the American people for these problems. When that's just not true. Most of the American people are good people. They want to take care of their family, go to work, be a member of their community, try to give their kids a little bit more than they had. That's what, and if we had a better media in this country, they would be laser focused on the halls of power and how corrupt they are. Because man, is there a lot of corruption going on at the top here.
Yeah, although I'm not as pessimistic as Dave Smith, I do believe that a lot of the things that he said in this video are coming true. The stores of value, the ideals, the ideology, the things that people held true and tightly to for the last 50 years are now beginning to crumble. As the ball of yarn from all of the lies of our corrupt system is created a mess that we can't pull ourselves out of. And some people have different theories about how to fix it. Some people say you start with the end of the thread of the ball of yarn and you begin to work your way back through the ball of mess. Other people, Bitcoiners, people like us at Swan Bitcoin, believe that you should just opt to create another system entirely, one that is built by default, open, transparent, globally accessible, and available to everybody, resistant to manipulation and corruption, and its rules without rulers. But we don't want a system that's completely opaque and completely catered to the people at the top. So, if you believe that the system that we're currently in is set up to provide a better life and a better future for your kids, for your family, then continue to invest your time and your money in a system that's clearly showing signs of breaking. But if you do believe in something better, something that can bring celebrities, Republicans, Democrats, leaders and rulers from all across the world to this little place called El Salvador for the re-election of somebody like Nayib Bukele over a weekend, then you should think about opting into something like Bitcoin that has the power to unite us all peacefully, without war, without corruption, without lobbying, without people being manipulated in order to show us what is actually true and what is actually real. And if you believe in that future, subscribe to our channel. Share this video and all the videos we produce with other people who you think should know about a better future. All we're doing is trying to bring the truth to the light to this show, and we do it daily. So, with that, we're signing off for the day. This is Dante Cook with Swan.com. Glad to be back. Happy stacking, everybody.